the last concept that we're going to look at for collisions is in terms of what happens when you hit something. So let's go back to this baseball here. So before the collision, this is the baseball bat, and this is the baseball. During the collision, the baseball is in contact with the bat and gets deformed, and then after the collision, so before it's going this way, and then after the collision, then the baseball takes back its shape and flies off in the other direction. So the key point is that the baseball is going to be so to you never notice that the baseball gets deformed, but it does. But that means that the baseball is only deformed for a short amount of time. So what we're going to consider now is the amount of time that the baseball is in contact with the bat, and and during this time, this is when the bat exerts a force on the baseball, and it's going to cause it to warp, or when the bat hits the ball. So that's going to be the next thing that we're going to look at. So this idea of the baseball bat, so here what's happening is that the baseball bat exerts a force on a ball for a certain amount of time. And if we go back to the equation that we saw before, I'm just going to simplify it here. It's this formula. I'm just going to have it simplified. So basically, force is equal to mass multiplied by velocity over time. So for when you're considering when something is hit, you're considering how long it's in contact with the bat, and also how much force it exerts on the bat. So I'm just going to move the variables around. I'm going to move the t over here. So then we're going to get the force multiplied by time is going to equal mass times v. But this is the term that we want here. This combination of force multiplied by time, this is how we're going to define the hit. So we're going to call it the impulse, and it's going to have the variable I, and it's defined as total force multiplied by the time that the force is being exerted. So this describes how hard something is hit, the amount of time that it's in contact, and also how much the force is applied. There's another way to describe impulse, though. So now if we go back again to Newton's second law, but write it in a more general form. So Newton's second law is not just force is equal to mass times velocity over t. It's equal to force equals final velocity minus initial velocity over t. And so there, playing around with the variables, we have another way to write impulse. Impulse can also be written as mass times final velocity minus mass times initial velocity. So really another way to describe impulse is to say that impulse is equal to the change in momentum. So the total final momentum minus the total initial momentum. So what impulse describes is how hard something is hit, and you can describe it in terms of the force that's applied and how much and for how long the force is applied. So in terms of the baseball here, or in terms of the fact that when you hit something, so it's moving in this direction, you cause it to change direction, so you change the momentum. So impulse can also be described by these two equations.